So I just got off of one of Royal Caribbean's smallest and oldest ships, Jewel of the Seas. I'm gonna break down what I thought of it and every penny I spent on this free cruise. Let's go. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris. Thank you for joining the video today. My channel is all about getting you aboard the world's biggest and best cruise ships for a heck of a lot less using casino comps. My latest adventure was aboard Jewel of the Seas out of Fort Lauderdale. It was a 4-night and then a 3-night back-to-back. I ended up in 2 separate rooms. I spent the first 4 days in an interior. I actually like this interior. I do like interiors in general. When you take naps, it's nice and dark. I don't really worry about having a balcony because I'm not on there very much. I don't mind ocean views as much, especially with the blackout drapes, but interiors are just fine with me. This room was in decent shape. The couch was a little bit old and used up, which is common on Royal Caribbean ships. When they do amplifications, when they go to dry dock, they generally don't spend a lot of time in the cabins, which isn't the greatest. But hey, it was fine. It suited my needs just fine. One thing I will say about the cabin placement of this one is that it was actually kind of in the centrum. It was on deck 10 and it was one cabin outside of the main hallway. So when I opened my door, I was essentially right in the centrum on deck 10. Now, bleed through from the centrum wasn't really that bad, especially considering I was up, 5 decks from the floor, 6 decks from the floor where all the activity was happening. So it really didn't notice too much sound bleed through. But the issue with this particular cabin is that it is directly underneath the Lido deck stage. So when the live band is playing on the Lido deck, that sound is reverberating right into your room. So afternoon naps, unfortunately, weren't great for me. But overall, I was quite happy with this room. Another great thing about Jewel is it's got the sliding doors in the bathroom, so you don't have to worry about a shower curtain, which I absolutely hate on sailings. My second room for the second half of the back-to-back was all the way down on deck 3, which was a little bit less convenient, but it was an ocean view and it was quite quiet. I also found that the furniture seemed to be in a lot better shape in this cabin. Overall, I was absolutely satisfied with this cabin. I love the fact that I was really close to the water so that I could look out of my porthole and just see the ocean. It was really cool. All right, on to the casino. So if you will remember, I have been on 2 other ships in this class. I have been on Brilliance of the Seas and I've been on Radiance of the Seas, and I really didn't enjoy Brilliance that much. I found that overall the outside of the ship wasn't cared for that well, which I didn't find with Radiance and with Jewel. I thought they took better care of the exterior portions of the ship. They have been more recently refurbed, so maybe they've paid a little bit more attention to it. But my main issue with Brilliance of the Seas was the casino. I found the casino to be dark, hot, smoky, and my biggest problem with it is that there's just a ton of pinch points in that casino. Now, Radiance went in for a pretty significant refurb just recently, and when we were on, the casino was absolutely transformed. There was a lot more room to move around, and they added this gorgeous, beautiful, non-smoking casino, which I thought was really great. And it had its own bar as well. So you could always go there if the main casino bar was packed, which it often is. So unfortunately, with Jewel, it suffered from the same issues as the Brilliance of the Sea casino. I wouldn't say it was quite as dark and smoky as the Brilliance casino, but the main problem with the Jewel of the Seas casino that was shared with the Brilliance was that they did this weird aesthetic thing in the casino where the spines, or where the actual slots are positioned, instead of them being just flat rows on either side, they did this bulge thing. And unfortunately, that's what causes a ton of the pinch points. So in order to get through, you were struggling to find a row where there weren't people sitting and playing. And that casino got busy because all the casino bookings were full for our sailing. So getting around in the casino is absolutely terrible. Another thing I didn't like about the Jewel of the Seas casino is that the machines were really old. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 like new machines within the last year or so, and then everything after that was 10 years or older. Like, it was fun in the sense because you got to play these machines you haven't seen for a long time, but I found myself craving some of the newer machines. Now, overall, as a bonus, if you're a budget gambler, a lot of the slots on this ship were lower volatility. So that's definitely going to help you save your bankroll. Now, coming up, I've got my how I did in the casino video, and you're going to see that I did fairly well. I'm going to show you some of those machines, and I'm going to show you the slots I recommend you play with caution, and avoid. So both of those are coming up a little bit later in the series. Make sure you've got my notifications on and you're subscribed if you want to know when those come up. All right, on to the good stuff. And as always, we start pre-cruise. Port fees and taxes, $337.92. If that sounds a little high, it's because it's a back-to-back. You are always going to spend more on port fees and taxes if you do a back-to-back as compared to a single sailing, even if those sailings are the same amount of days. Looks like about 40 to 50% more that I paid for these than if I would have paid for a single sailing. Gratuities, $129.50, and my pre-cruise total was $467.42. All right, traveling to and from the port. Gas and tolls, that has gone up. Obviously, gas is more expensive right now, $163.66. Parking. All right, it's embarkation day. I am here at Port Everglades, and I'll be on Jewel of the Seas for 8 nights on a back-to-back. One thing I think you should know, I did try to get parking with Right Way Parking. That's the one I used for my last cruise, the Independence of the Seas out of Miami. It was a great experience. This time, I tried to park at a property called Bahia Mar, which is one of the properties that's partnered with Right Way Parking. When I got there, unfortunately, nobody knew anything about it. I called Right Way Parking. They could not resolve the issue, so they refunded it. So I am parked at the port, which is going to be significantly more expensive. But hey, I'm here and I'm going on a cruise, so I'm pretty pumped. So, if you might remember from my Independence of the Seas series, I used Right Way Parking in Miami to park. There was a downtown Miami parkade, and even though it was hard to get to, the parkade when I got there was clean, safe, it was perfect, and it was much cheaper than the Miami port, which is like $35 a day. I think it was $8 a day or $10 a day, something like that. Unfortunately, I did the same thing this time, although we were going out to Fort Lauderdale. So I tried again. I booked with Right Way, one of their new properties. It's a DoubleTree hotel. It was at Bahia Mar, which is pretty close to the Port Everglades port. When I got there, the instructions said, check in with the valet. The valet will get you parked. It's all good. I got there. Valet had no idea what I was talking about. So I called Right Way Parking. Unfortunately, it was one of their newer properties. So they called the hotel manager to try to get it sorted. They could not. So they ended up refunding me, and I just parked at the port. So instead of paying about $83, which is what I originally paid, I ended up paying $140, significantly more. So the total for travel was $203.66. Onboard. Gambling. So I only spent $72.12 on gambling on this 7-night cruise. Goes back to what I said earlier about older machines, lower volatility. And I've got a really interesting story to tell you about 2 big bets that I made accidentally. One large bet, one huge bet, one went not so great, and one went really good. I'm going to tell you about that in my upcoming casino video for Jewel of the Seas. Make sure you're subscribed and have the notification bell on to know when that video comes out. Folio balance, $57.22. So that's like room service, anything that I spent on the ship. I didn't spend a lot on this sailing. Wi-Fi, $63.18. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a story for you. I always recommend if you're Diamond Plus, you get 2 free Wi-Fi days every sailing. If you're Prime in the casino, you get 30% off Wi-Fi or packages. So what I've been recommending is that, somebody who's Diamond or Diamond Plus, Diamond gets one free day per sailing, that you use your free days, then you buy the remaining days, go to the Voom desk, and they'll apply your 30% Prime discount. Well, somebody told me on this sailing, I didn't even know this, you can actually buy the package on board and go to the Voom desk, and they will apply the 30% discount minus the 2 days. They will prorate it minus whatever days you didn't have to spend. So for 7 nights, it was $63.18. And as you know, $31 a day if you buy the Wi-Fi on the ship, so much cheaper. Total $192.52 on board. Our grand totals. Pre-cruise was $467.42. Travel was $203.66. Onboard was $192.52. The grand total was $863.60. That's not bad. A cost per day of $123.37. And as I say, I always try to hit between $100 and $150. I feel like I'm doing really, really good. You need some luck in the casino to hit that, but luckily I got it in this sailing, so that's really good. Now, the brochure price, if you were to buy both of these, according to the booking price, would have been $4,808. It shows you how much higher the cruise fares have gone up, because Jewel's an older ship. This is not a new ship. Now, people complain, they say, Chris, you should not use the brochure rate. Nobody pays that. You always pay, you always find sales on board, or you never pay that rate. And I would agree. But the reason I use the brochure rate, and a point that Jess made out really smartly, is the casino is using this rate to decide what they're going to give you in terms of comps. In marketing offers, they don't decide, well, he's an interior person on Oasis, or this person's an Ocean View on Symphony or Harmony. They are assigning you a dollar value. This is what we're willing to give this person per day in comps, which could be free play and other stuff as well, because we think we will outpace that when they actually come on board and play. So depending on what the prices are, prices go down, you may be able to get better rooms. That's why Jesselyn, my travel agent and best cruise buddy, can sometimes reprice me into a higher category, from interior to Ocean View, from Ocean View to a balcony, because prices have gone down since the time of booking, and the value that they've assigned you doesn't change. The brochure rate per day is $686.93. So that gives you an idea of how much they might think I could lose per day in the casino, which is actually kind of ridiculous because I've never really lost that much at the casino. So there you have it. That's every penny I spent on this Jewel of the Seas sailing. Something that me and Jess were kind of thinking about on this Jewel sailing is how they are going to measure play and what we are worth once AI becomes more highly leveraged when they're determining this. So I don't know if you know a little bit about the history of ADT. It's pretty old. Average Daily Theoretical was started by Caesars in Vegas many years ago. That was what they had at the time. They didn't obviously have AI. They didn't have a lot of insights and data that they have today. That's how they kind of guessed how much you might lose if they offer you a future visit. So that's really outdated. I could expect casinos, including cruise ship casinos, in the future to come up with more accurate measurement, and that could significantly change what we're getting in casino offers. It's just something to think about. Coming up next in the Jewel of the Seas series, there's a couple of them. There's How I Did in the Casino, which is going to be fun and really interesting. And then the slots, I recommend you play with caution, and avoid if you want to be like me, stretch your bankroll, lose less in the casino, and still earn these great marketing offers. And this one's going to be especially interesting because, like I said, the machines on Jewel of the Seas are a lot older. So you're going to be seeing a lot of machines you haven't seen in my previous videos. As always, thank you so much for watching.